Dunkelflaute surge in renewable energy. Whether you've heard of it or not, Dunkelflaute is a challenge our energy systems will need to manage. The clean energy transition is posing lots of challenges for the power industry. The largest of these challenges is how to balance the electric transmission system and maintain reliability for a grid that's dominated by weather-dependent resources like wind and solar. After all, the sun never shines at night, and the wind never blows exactly when we need it. Dunkelflaute is a German term that translates to dark doldrums or dark lull. In Australia, this has been referred to as a renewable drought. A recent lull in wind generation in South Australia is a small-scale snapshot of what could become a much larger problem in future. It refers to a meteorological phenomenon that occurs when there is little to no energy generation from wind and solar power due to unfavorable weather conditions, such as a lack of wind and dense cloud cover. This can be particularly challenging for regions that rely heavily on renewable energy sources. You can see the graph for the 11th and the 12th of June, where wind power, represented by green in figure below, generated fewer than 4,800 megawatt-hours of a total demanded 55,000 megawatt-hours, only 8.7% of total generation. This is compared with the 9th and the 10th of June when wind power generated 46,000 megawatt-hours out of a total demanded 73,000 megawatt-hours, contributing 63% to generation. In the context of renewable energy, a Dunkelflaute is a period where both wind and solar power are significantly below their capacity, often defined as below 20% during a specific 60-minute period. These events can last from several hours to days and are more common in Europe during the winter months, typically from October to February. However, they can also occur in other regions and seasons, such as in Japan during early summer and winter. To manage the impact of Dunkelflaute on energy infrastructure, countries may use alternative energy sources like fossil fuels, hydroelectricity, or nuclear power, as well as energy storage solutions. Long-term strategies include designing electricity markets to incentivize clean, flexible power and international cooperation to address the issue in a low-carbon manner. Right now, the daily wind and solar dips are covered by firm or flexible resources like nuclear, hydropower and pumped storage, demand response, and natural gas. As told earlier, Dunkelflaute refers to the lack of sufficient wind and sun to cover the load over a period of days, weeks, or months. Long periods with too little wind and solar power are an extreme strain on an energy system. Security of supply is jeopardized. To avoid power cuts, utilities operate several gas-fired power plants and coal-fired power plants, of which burn hard coal steinkohle and burn lignite braunkohle. Take an example of Germany's fossil power plants who generate extremely high emissions. Nuclear power was phased out in April 2023. See this graph. If we intend to use batteries instead, we see that about 40 gigawatts are needed over at least 100 hours, which means a needed battery capacity of around 4,000 gigawatt-hours GWH. Take an example of Northvolt battery cell factory in Skellefteå in Sweden should be able to deliver about 16 GWH of battery capacity per year, which means a delivery time of 250 years to cover Germany's current need for storage capacity. Charging the batteries requires large amounts of electricity. Where it will come from is unclear in this case. If we want to build new gas-fired power plants instead, we need a lot of gas, which unfortunately is not fossil-free. At what price we can buy the gas and who will deliver the gas is unclear. So far, no one has been interested in investing and building these power plants as they will only supply electricity when needed part-time power plants. Government's intention is to later run the gas-fired power plants on hydrogen, making them H2 ready, but neither electrolyzers, renewable electricity volumes, grids, storage, import structure, nor adapted loads are available. System stability. As more inverter-based resources replace spinning mass generators, the need for inertia, frequency response, and regulation will grow. Think of inertia as a big shock absorber that blunts large changes in frequency. Without inertia and regulation, the grid is more susceptible to blackouts or power quality issues. The good news. Hydropower and pumped storage are capable of providing system stability services. Already, hydropower and pumped storage provide a significant amount of stability services, especially in the Western Interconnect. In addition, hydro and PSH can operate in condenser mode, which helps the system manage reactive power needs. The bad news. Currently, services like inertia are mostly uncompensated in organized markets. This is because the transmission system has had an abundance of traditional generators to provide stability support. But with the shift to inverter-based resources, that is quickly changing. Meteorology. Unlike a typical anticyclone, Dunkelflauten are associated not with clear skies, but with very dense cloud cover 0.7 to 0.9, consisting of stratus, stratocumulus, and fog. As of 2022, there is no agreed quantitative definition of Dunkelflaute. It is defined as wind and solar, both below 20% of capacity during a particular 60-minute period. High albedo of low-level stratocumulus clouds in particular, sometimes the cloud base height is just 400 meters, can reduce solar irradiation by half. In the north of Europe, Dunkelflauten originate from a static high-pressure system that causes an extremely weak wind combined with overcast weather with stratus or stratocumulus clouds. There are 10 Dunkelflaute events per year. Most of these events occur from October to February, typically 50 to 150 hours per year. A single event usually lasts up to 24 hours. In Japan, on the other hand, Dunkelflauten are seen in summer and winter. The former is caused by stationary fronts in early summer and autumn rainy seasons called Bayu and Akasame, respectively, while the latter is caused by arrivals of south coast cyclones. Poor weather is a challenge, but not the end of renewables. Dunkelflaute poses a significant obstacle, but that challenge can also be an opportunity. These weather events could help extend the clean power surge if governments, businesses, and consumers take it as inspiration to drive renewable energy development. Renewable power is a complex but necessary issue. Enabling it nationally will require addressing challenges like Dunkelflaute, but success in that endeavor will enable needed long-term improvements. Role of energy storage in surviving Dunkelflaute. One particularly crucial technology for surviving Dunkelflaute is energy storage. Regardless of other innovations that may emerge, nature-dependent power sources need to store the electricity they generate to be reliable. Dwindling generation in Dunkelflaute would be less of a concern if grids could capture and later deliver excess energy from sunny or windy seasons. Pumped hydro is one of the most promising storage technologies. By 2025, more than half of new European hydropower capacity additions will be pumped storage facilities. These technologies' wide availability, familiarity, and relatively low cost make them ideal candidates for short-term storage expansions. Batteries, hydrogen fuel cells, and thermal storage also hold promise. These technologies may need more work and research to unlock their full potential, but expanding hydropower in the meantime can help sustain energy grids until they do. As Dunkelflaute concerns loom, they could revitalize research in these areas. Impact of Dunkelflaute on energy prices. The impact of Dunkelflaute on energy prices can be significant. During periods of Dunkelflaute, when there is a lack of wind and solar energy production due to weather conditions, the demand for energy often remains the same or increases, especially during colder months. This mismatch between supply and demand can lead to several consequences. Increased reliance on fossil fuels. Nations may face the choice of either experiencing power shortages or turning back to fossil fuels to meet energy demands. This can lead to rising gas prices and a higher demand for coal power, which may be in decline due to the shift towards green energy. Higher energy prices. With renewable energy sources unable to produce sufficient electricity, energy prices can more than double, as seen in recent events. The lack of wind and solar power generation puts upward pressure on prices. Potential blackouts. The inability of renewables to generate electricity on demand during Dunkelflaute could jeopardize their reliability, leading to an increased likelihood of blackouts. Increased electricity bills. As a result of the above factors, consumers may face higher electricity bills. Overall, Dunkelflaute events highlight the need for advancements in renewable energy technologies and the importance of having a diverse energy mix, including energy storage solutions, to maintain a stable and affordable energy supply. Strategies to reduce Dunkelflaute impact. To reduce the effects of Dunkelflaute, several strategies can be implemented. Diversifying energy sources. Incorporating a mix of renewable energy sources, such as hydroelectric, geothermal, and biomass, can help maintain energy supply when wind and solar are insufficient. Energy storage solutions. Investing in energy storage technologies like batteries, pumped hydro storage, and compressed air energy storage can store excess energy generated during peak production times for use during Dunkelflaute. Demand response programs. Implementing demand response programs that encourage consumers to reduce or shift their energy usage during peak demand times can alleviate pressure on the grid. Grid interconnections. Strengthening grid interconnections allows for the import and export of electricity between regions, helping to balance out periods of low local renewable energy production. Smart grid technologies. Utilizing smart grid technologies can optimize the distribution and management of electricity, improving the resilience of the power system. Forecasting and planning. Accurate forecasting of weather patterns and energy demand can help utilities prepare and adjust their operations to minimize the impact of Dunkelflaute. Investment in research. Continued research into improving the efficiency and capacity of renewable energy technologies can reduce the frequency and impact of Dunkelflaute events. Policy support. Government policies that support the development of renewable energy infrastructure and market incentives for clean energy can facilitate the transition to a more resilient energy system. By implementing these measures, we can enhance the reliability of renewable energy sources and mitigate the challenges posed by Dunkelflaute. Predicting Dunkelflaute events. Yes, there are ways to predict Dunkelflaute events. Advances in meteorological forecasting and data analysis have enabled the development of models that can anticipate these periods of low wind and solar power generation. For example, researchers have proposed a two-step, unsupervised deep learning framework called WASRNet Wind and Solar Network that uses a convolutional neural network CNN-based autoencoder to encode spatial patterns of wind speed and insolation, which can then be used to identify Dunkelflaute periods. This framework has been validated using aggregated wind and solar power production data from Belgium and can identify Dunkelflaute periods from public domain meteorological data. Additionally, climatological studies have been conducted to better understand the frequency and underlying meteorological drivers of Dunkelflaute events in specific regions, such as the North and Baltic Sea areas. These studies utilize multi-year meteorological and power production datasets to quantify statistics related to Dunkelflaute events and identify their meteorological drivers. Predicting Dunkelflaute is crucial for energy system operators to manage the grid effectively and ensure a stable power supply. By using these predictive models and climatological analyses, utilities can prepare for potential energy shortages and implement measures to mitigate the impact of these events. Deep storage. One option is building deep storage, like pumped hydro, that by its nature is well placed to provide storage capacity. Australia's Snowy 2.0, for example, will be able to provide 2,000 megawatts of generation capacity for 175 hours at full capacity. Managing the winter lull. Dunkelflaute is a challenging problem that requires detailed planning and mapping of the electricity system and usage throughout the year, rather than relying on averages that are more commonly talked about. There are a range of technical options available to manage Dunkelflaute. Batteries and pumped hydro can be good options for managing hourly and daily fluctuations in demand, but there are questions over longer durations. Shorter-term storage is likely to best be complemented by renewable gas electricity generation to manage longer periods of low variable renewable generation.